Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they war. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Laugh to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force of air. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Okay, welcome to the show. This is Game On. I'm your host, Ron Stevens, and you're listening on UCY.TV. And as far as I'm concerned, it's about the best radio network on the internet. And I've been on a few of them. I'm still on another one. But before I get going here, I want to give a shout out to Jules for putting such a good station together. She's got the archives minutes after the show is over. It's up on YouTube within about an hour, and I want to thank her. The chat's great on this station, this network, and she put together a really good package. So I want to thank her for all her efforts. Now, I guess today is August the 9th. We're into a federal election. We've got a federal election here in Canada. We've got the lead up to the election lunacy going on in the United States. We have, before I get back to Canada, I'm rather amazed and appalled by the amount of running room that, now I forgot his damn name. What's the, shoot. The guy down in the States there that's builds buildings. What the hell is his name? Donald Trump. Sorry about that, Donald. That's an important year in my life. But you know, you got this lunatic running, got bad hair, doesn't give a damn about people. He cares about Donald Trump. And it seems to be he's garnering a lot of support. Now, part of the new world that they're building here is based on rental properties. Now, Donald is a developer. Okay, that's what he is first. He's a developer. Now, they've put a containment border zone around every single community pretty much in the world now. So they've caged you in just like they do with the natives on the reserves. So while there's more land than you can shake a stick at, America has a population a little over 300 million, depending how many came in on the borders today. But around 310 million people, I guess. And it is just minutely smaller than China. Okay, And by the way, China has lots of empty space. China's population per kilometer or per square mile is actually quite a bit smaller than that of England, the density of the population. So China still has lots of room. Then they have over 1 billion people now. America has, or the United States, I don't, what are you going to call it? I'm going to call it America. I don't like the United States. It's a corporation. We'll call it the American land. It has 310 million people on it. So it's definitely not overpopulated. But they have put the border containment zones around every town, the Agenda 21 reserves that they're building. And that means that the land inside of those borders is going to continue to increase. Now, what's going on here is they're building all kinds of what I call them Agenda 21 slums, is what they're building. Okay, and as the price of property continues to rise, because like they used to say, they don't make any more land, but what they've done is restricted your use to the land. And so guys like Donald Trump, he ain't stupid. He understands Agenda 21 and that. He understands that the idea is to continue to build higher and higher density housing. Most of these developers are going to build rental properties and turn you into a rent slave. Same as that. So simple as that. So, you know, you're all hep up about a guy who doesn't give a damn about you, and is just going to whether he's ever elected or not doesn't matter. I mean, he's going to make a small fortune, not a small fortune, large fortune, as they turn you into rental slaves. That's just my thoughts on Donald. Now, we have our election going on here. I watched a bit of, I don't have a TV, but I watched a bit of the debates on the internet. And I suppose if you're a regular TV watcher, maybe you could have got engaged in it. But when you're not a regular TV watcher and you're not mesmerized by the flicker or whatever the hell's going on that television, to bring you into this mental state that a television does to you. If you're a regular TV watcher, you may have watched this debate and went, oh, well, he did good, or he did, or she did good, or whatever. When you're not a regular TV watcher and you watch these clips, you just want to throw up. Okay? These people are so much like cardboard cutout talking TV heads on a news broadcast with their little sound bites and that. It really does make you want to throw up. I mean, you could have put a bunch of grade 8 students up there had a better debate. In fact, speaking of debates, when I was at the debate for our local election here for mayor, with this evening, and the one girl, grade 8 no less, went up to the microphone and asked some pertinent questions and was shut down. The panel, or the candidates running for mayor and the other positions as counselors, couldn't deal with the questions from a grade 8 student, and they shut the mic off on her. Now, they'd shut the mic off on me as well, which is expected. But so I went back to the back of the line, and the grade 8 girl student saw me do that, and she come back in line, can we do this? Oh, yeah. And she went back up as well, and just skinned the hides of these candidates. And she's in grade 8. She gets it. I don't know why the rest of the population doesn't get it. Every one of these candidates, and I was corrected, they're not candidates, they're leaders of the party, and you're not voting for them. You're voting for the party, whatever. Okay, Doesn't make any difference to me. But these leaders, these so-called leaders, are all working for the same group of internationalists, globalists. So they're up there supposedly sparring when they're all on the same side. It blows me away that people can't get that. It absolutely blows me away that in this day and age, people can't get it. But then they're watching TV. I did, if I can dig that out, I was goofing around on Facebook a little bit. I use that as kind of a gauge of how people are thinking. Are they thinking? Are they beginning to think? Are they waking up? And I do believe the answer is yes. It took a long time, but they are, I do believe, starting to get it. Now, if I had put this out a few years ago, which I put out something similar, and I would get just trashed, right? I mean, I got this back in '74 when I was telling people about Canada being a benevolent dictatorship. And I explained it to people why I was saying what I was saying. It was very simple. Here in Canada, we really don't have any checks and balances. Once you elect somebody for a term, in the position of prime minister or premier, if they have the majority vote, we don't really have any checks and balances here. We have the Senate, which is supposed to be a checks and balances, but each one that gets elected in, they just load out the Senate with their people. So they can basically do whatever the hell they want for the length of their term, of which they can stretch out if they wish to 5 years. And they can bring in whatever laws, and we're going to talk about law later, but they can bring in whatever laws they want, do whatever the hell they want, and there's really no checks and balances. But what they're really doing is they're doing the bidding of the internationalists. So I put this out to people to ask them to send this to their particular candidate that they have picked that they might vote for. It doesn't matter if we're very colorful here in Canada. See, in the United States, you basically got red and blue. You know, you got Democrats and liberals, red and blue. And, or not Democrats and liberals, you got Democrats and Republicans, which are liberals and conservatives, which are red and blue. But up here, we're much more colorful. We have green and orange and red and blue. So we're very colorful up north here. But they all work for the same outfit. Now, this is what I ask people to send to the candidates of whatever party it is that they think they might vote for. To ask their candidates to prove these statements wrong. And when I sent this out to these different party Facebook sites and that, and people that are promoting particular parties, I expected to really get swatted. I've had people screaming at me for so many years, it's ridiculous. If you don't like Canada, why don't you move? Right? Kind of crap. And I know people that are trying to make people in the States get the same nonsense, right? Instead of people listening and reading, they get emotional over this stuff. But this is my take on these people. Will one or all of the candidates, who are either running for PM or just a position, please tell the voters the truth? The truth is, and this is the truth, I, the candidate, we, the party, ask for your vote, knowing we can never represent you. Once elected, we take an oath of allegiance to the Queen, Crown, Corporation, and you might as well put another slash and put Vatican in there. Put another slash and put UN in there. And are bound by that oath. Therefore, we cannot represent the people. We represent the Queen, Crown Corporation, UN, Vatican, globalists, whatever, of which we become employees. And it's true. Once you take the oath of allegiance to the Queen, who has taken an oath of allegiance to those other things that I mentioned, other entities that I mentioned, once one of your elected officials takes that oath to the Queen, they become employees of the Queen, Crown / Corporation, yada, yada, yada. And swear, what we become employees of when elected, and swear the required oath. Canada is a corporation, and the government / cabinet is in reality the board of directors of the corporation. And I ask people to send that out to their candidates, and ask their candidates to prove those statements wrong. They can't do it. And I would like everyone that's listening to this program to do the same thing. You know, send this or something similar out to your preferred candidate. And I know a lot of people who would be listening to this show have no intention of voting anyways. But we need to, regardless if you're going to vote, send something similar to this out to all of the candidates in your particular electoral territory. Okay? It's all about shining the light on them. If everybody sends something out this, they're going to go, oh, damn. Okay? It's all about shining the light on these people. And a lot of these people probably are so stunned, and I ran in several elections now, are probably so stunned they don't even get what they're being asked. What do you mean we can't represent the people? I thought that's why we were running. Well, it'd be nice if you were, and maybe you are. Maybe you're running because you want to represent the people. The fact of the matter is you can't represent the people. Okay? The Queen is head of state, not the government. And Canada signed on to the United Nations, as did America and all the other countries, which makes them states of the United Nations. So everything going on in your country is from the globalist side, not inside your country. Okay? It's outside influence. Okay? So everything that's going on in your country, your schools, your hospitals, your local councils, the Agenda 21 programs that are being run through our countries are all coming from outside our countries. None of these are our decisions. These aren't decisions of our politicians. Okay, these are decisions of the globalists, of which our politicians have basically taken an oath to when they became a state of. And they are beholden to the internationalists, not you and I. And that's something we got to make sure these candidates are very, very well aware of. And like I said, having run in a couple of elections, they don't put really bright people forward in the elections. Everyone's vetted before they get to run for a party. Okay. Unless they have some kind of, what would you call it, a pre-following, or they have some kind of a celebrity status to bring to the election, then they may get let through. Anyways, this popped up in the news today, and I got to discuss this. I haven't read it yet. This is from the National Post under Canadian politics. Stephen Harper vows to make it illegal for Canadians to travel to terrorist hotspots. Now, a lot of people think Mr. Harper is anti-green. anti-environment, if you will. Mr. Harper is a puppet, just like all the rest of them, doing the bidding of the globalists. The only difference with Mr. Harper is really tight with Israel. Okay? Now he wants to put in some laws that you can't badmouth Israel. Well, the only reason for World War II, Mr. Harper, was the creation of the United Nations and the creation of the State of Israel. That's it. Okay? So why you would be on the side of Israel is beyond me, but then you're a puppet. I don't know exactly what you're chasing here, but the fact is that if I want to call Israel a bunch of evil dogs, I will. Okay? I mean, look at Palestine. How the hell could you be on the side of Israel when they've done to Palestine what they plan on doing here? Okay? Palestine is full of checkpoints. It's all chewed up. You can't go here. You can't go there. Geez, that sounds a whole lot like Agenda 21 that's being implemented in our own lands. Okay, they want to get rid of our vehicles. They're not sustainable. They want to get rid of our right of property. It's not sustainable. They want to throw us into rental units along a rail line. They want to take us so that we can't even get to nature. I mean, I was talking to a guy who did his show. He's from down around Burlington. And they fenced off where he used to take his kids when they were younger. Fenced it off, I guess it's along the Niagara Escarpment or something, and they can't go in there anymore. And they used to be free, no fences. Now they have to pay to go in there, but they can only go to certain places. So Agenda 21 and Palestine have a hell of a lot in common. But, our buddy here, Mr. Harper, for some reason, loves Israel, and a lot of people say that he's anti-green. Well, it was the conservatives that brought Agenda 21 to Canada. And you have to excuse me, when I say Canada, I mean the land. When they say Canada, they mean the corporations. So, bear with me on this. I don't have to keep correcting myself all the time. When I say Canada, I mean the land and the people. And when they say Canada, they mean their laws and the corporation. But anyways, I give a double. There used to be a guy out of Montreal who was a retired engineer who used to do videos in his broken English, and I love this guy because he used to at the end of each video, he would hold up middle finger on each hand and give Israel an 11, he called it. You Zionist dogs. So we have a guy who's pro-Zionist as our prime minister, which is not a good sign. But also he like Brian Mulroney, who brought us Agenda 21, is 100% behind the United Nations. He's 100% behind green, but he's playing a game here, okay? He's playing a game here. And part of the game that the environmentalists who hate him don't understand is what he's doing by being pro-tar sands or oil sands, whichever one you want to call it, is he's setting up the sell-off of the lands to the internationalists. Okay, they're going to end up with our resources, and that's the plan. Okay, because the corporation owns everything here. People say, this is our land. Well, technically, no, it's not. It belongs to the corporation. They can basically do whatever the hell they want with it. What we have to do is we have to establish it as ours. We must claim the lands the same way that the royalty and the crown claimed these lands. Okay, they claimed it as wasteland because it wasn't being developed. Well, the native people didn't develop, okay? I mean, they had a society that worked very, very well for them. They didn't need railways. They didn't need shipping lanes. They were quite happy here. Okay, so when the explorers came here and found no towns or villages or infrastructure, they claimed it as a wasteland and eminent domain, basically. Okay. We, on the other hand, the people, have built every single thing that is on these lands. The queen didn't build nothing, the kings didn't build nothing, the princes didn't build nothing, the politicians didn't build nothing, the lawyers didn't build nothing. We did. Okay, but they claim it. We improved their lands, but in fact they're our lands because every improvement here is ours, and we possess it because we live on it, and we need to make that extremely. We have to get that to the politicians that we're claiming the land back. Because we're not going to do what Israel and the United Nations wants us to do. That would just be plain stupid. But anyways, I'm just going to go through this a little bit because I find this absolutely astounding. This kind of reminds me of, and I haven't read the story, but the headline kind of reminds me of when Americans weren't allowed to do business with Cuba, kind of thing. Right? Because Cuba was a communist influence or whatever. And I remember we used to get hacked here in Canada a little bit or jacked around by Americans sometimes going, like we were doing business with Cuba and we always going to Cuba. People like to go to Cuba. And, we were a communist nation more or less. And in a sense, they were absolutely correct. Okay, our prime minister, Trudeau, used to go down. He was great friends with Castro. Okay. But what they're doing is they're just playing different games here. It's all the same people they're playing for, just playing a little bit different game. So those people who think Prime Minister Harper is not pushing the environment movement, they don't get the environment movement. He's definitely pushing the environment movement. At the same time, the environment movement's not about the environment. Okay, well, you're busy trying to save a tree. They're selling off the resources, the oil and the coal and that to China. Okay, so you got to wrap your brain around that a little bit. But I'm really interested in this. I'm going to read a little bit of this. The Conservatives are promising a legal crackdown on Canadians traveling to regions of the world controlled by terrorist groups. Well, all of the terrorist groups were constructed, okay, by the same people that he's working for. Okay, so the real terrorist groups are places like the United Nations, World Bank, IMF, WHO, FAO, Israel, and so on and so forth. Those are the actual terrorist groups. And of course, all of the tax-exempt and nonprofit foundations out there are all part of the same terrorist groups, because those terrorist groups are wanting to destroy your way of life and your society, and they're doing a pretty damn good job of it right now. Anyways, the measure would establish declared areas, regions of the world where terrorist groups like Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant hold control and use their base to recruit and train followers. The proposed law would see national security agents tracking Canadians who travel to those areas and force those returning to the country to prove they were in the region for humanitarian reasons or as journalists covering the conflict. Similar laws exist in Australia, which has designated parts of Iraq and Syria as no travel zones. Now, where does this dick get off on telling you where you can and can't go Okay? Where does he get off on saying that they want to pass a law? Okay? And we'll get to law a little bit later because law is not law. Now, there's another story here today. We have the NDP will probably, I'm thinking, win this election. It's being set up that way, or it appears to be set up that way. We won't know till the end, but the Green Party is definitely going to win. Not going to win. The Liberals are definitely not going to win. The NDP won in Alberta, which has been conservative like forever. And I'm thinking they're probably going to win the federal election. And Tom Mulcair, who is the leader of the NDP, was NDP, then he was Liberal, then he almost became a conservative, then now he's the leader of the NDP. This is a guy who's rather confused, I think, isn't he? He doesn't know what he is, you know. I'm surprised he didn't rub a little green on his collar as well. So this is the guy that quite possibly may end up as the next prime minister. Of course, they are with Socialists International and the UNPA, the United Nations Parliamentary Assembly, who are pushing to set up a global parliamentary system through the UN, and that becomes your global government because it will supersede our governments, and that's the whole plan. But then the Conservatives are involved in it, in the UNPA. Trudeau is a member of the UNPA. Jack Layton, he's dead now, but NDPer, leader of the NDP, member of the UNPA. Elizabeth May, leader of the Green Party, member of the UNPA. Many members of the Senate are members of the UNPA. And many members of the Conservative government are members of the UNPA. And then if you go over to the Privy Council, you will find Trudeau, Pierre Trudeau, Trudeau's dad, was a member of the Club of Rome. And you will find members in there from World Federalists. You will find in the Privy Council Maurice Strong, who brought us Agenda 21, and so on and so forth. So for anyone out there to think that any of these people, these leaders of these political parties, have your interests at heart, it's really time to reassess that thought process. None of them, not any of them, have ever, will ever represent you. It's an absolute impossibility. We have a prime minister of a country, this country, who wants to pass laws, hate speech laws and that, if somebody says something nasty about Israel. It's the same thing as the Jews did with their groups, that if I say something bad about Jews, I could be hauled up in front of the Human Rights Commission or something. Well, screw off with that, okay? But this is part of law, okay? And what law really is, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more later, law is not law. The legal system is not law. Everything that passed through the legislature is not law, okay? It's legal. It is not law. It is the bylaws, if you will, of the corporation. It is the same, is no different than McDonald's or any other big corporation. When you get hired on to the corporation, you have to follow their rules, the rules and the regulations of the corporation. And that adds normalcy to the organization, okay? And that's all these laws are. So when they say that I can't say anything about Jews, or I get my ass hauled in front of the Human Rights Commission, what they're saying is that these are the norms that we have set down in law, but it's not law. Okay, it's legal, and it's simply the rules and regulations of the corporation. Now, apparently, when you're born here in a country, you somehow instantly have a duty to abide by the rules and regulations set down by the legislatures. Now, how does that happen? Okay, when you're born, and it's the same thing in the United States and everywhere else, when you're born, you have a duty. You are a subject of that corporation. And you have a duty to be beholden to their bylaws and to defend the corporation. Like we might send you off to a war. Okay? But you're not defending each other. You're defending the corporation, the corporate interests. It's all you're doing. But for somebody to say that you are bound when you're born and that you are subject to when you're born puts you into a position of servitude. And servitude is slavery. And according to all these human rights clowns and that, including the UN, slavery is against the law, all law. So for them to say that you're duty bound because you're a subject and you will subject yourself to the company's bylaws means that you accept slavery upon your birth. And slavery is against every law on the planet. So you're not bound, and you don't have a duty. You can't force somebody to have to be dutiful. Okay, but this is what they pass through these legislatures. Anyways, I hope people, I'm not going to run in the election. I thought about it. I got a call. Some people wanted to raise some money to run me as an independent. I have no way to get around right now. They've got me pretty much locked down here. And I got thinking about it. As much fun as I could have, and I'm going to be sad. I know that I don't run. Logistically, I don't see how it's going to work. Because this is a federal election, I have to do a hell of a pile of traveling, and I really don't have any way to travel. And I know you can travel without a license. I get that. I'm working with the Attorney General's office right now and several other agencies here to see if we can't work something out, because I know I'm in a small town, and if I hit the road here, I'm going to get towed like almost instantly, and I'm going to be back in court. So it's half and half, you know. It's half and half. So I think what I'm going to end up doing here is I'll probably paper the town here and do it that way. I will probably make calls to homeowners and that and explain to them exactly what's going on, send them to the website, and try it that way. So there's lots of ways that we can influence the election. There's lots of ways that we can get to people, and it's something that we really need to, like, time is really really wasting here. You know, the election, we got a pretty long election going here, and we have the opportunity into the end of October to really do some damage, and I suggest that's what we do. We need to put up posters in our towns explaining that none of these people that you elect represent you, that they are all employees of the Queen Crown, and they do the bidding of the Queen Crown. We need to explain to people that Canada is a state of the United Nations, and it is the United Nations policies that are being implemented here under the guise of Agenda 21, and so on and so forth. Simple little flyers, put them up, and if you have a website, direct them to the website or direct them to this show. You know, it's all about shining that damn light on people, you know, and on the situation that's in front of our faces. We need to explain to people why their water bills are going up and their taxes are going up and their hydro bills are going through the ceiling. We need to take this opportunity to shine that light. We really, really do. It's a beautiful opportunity, and we need to use it because regardless of who gets elected, same crap's going to happen. That's just the way it is. Now, less and less people vote every time because they're frustrated because they jump from party to party because they like what somebody said on the TV and have no background, haven't done any research. They just like what somebody said one day, or a friend of theirs when they're having coffee says they like what somebody says, and that influences the person listening without them ever doing any research on their own, understanding the scope of what's going on, and they go and vote. So we need to get people riled up, if you will, and get them in a bad mood, if you will, that regardless of who they vote for, they voted for the same party. There is only one party. The party is the Crown, and the Crown has signed us over as a state of the United Nations. So again, you have no representation whatsoever on these lands. None zippo. So we've been taken for a ride for a long, long time, and this so-called benevolent government that we've been living under is going to turn real nasty. They've already turned nasty because every single municipality is pushing Agenda 21 since some of them, Hamilton since 87, and Agenda 21 wasn't signed on until 92. So it's been a long, long time that this deception has been plied on us from the local level and the provincial and the federal levels. You know, 92 to 2015, man, that's a long, long time. And none of them have told you what they're up to. You don't see politicians out there going, this is great, that new bike path, that came from the United Nations, and it's Agenda 21, folks. And why are we infilling Agenda 21, folks? Why is your fuel bill so high? Agenda 21, folks. Right? Because according to Agenda 21, what's not sustainable? Private property, your vehicle, water, hydro, and you are not sustainable. And we can't give them a free ride. You know, people are starting to ask questions. They're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. This is your opportunity, wherever it is you live, to clue them in. You know, anybody listening to this show, I'm sure, has done a certain amount of research. Okay, you can make a simple 8.5 by 11 flyer, stuff it up on the poles or on the store windows, and just add in some links for people to go to and clue them in. And you know, people, you know, I mean, what are the candidates going to do? They can't buck any of this stuff. You know, get that light. They're cockroaches. Remember that. They're vampires. They're sucking the lifeblood out of these lands and your futures. Cockroaches and vampires don't like light. So will you shine the light on them? Let me see here. This is some of this stuff that I did. No, I didn't see this yesterday. I'm going to do this. This is nuts. Tristan Hopper, I don't know who that is, says that children are suggestible, psychopathic little maniacs. Keep them away from elections. That's amazing. And this is from the National Post again. It says here, as with any campaign, this one's going to be featuring a lot of kids. I expect a lot of social media posts of politicians posing with elementary schoolers and boasting that little Susie is their biggest supporter. Be prepared for campaign door knockers standing on your porch with bright-eyed youngster who rehearsed an adorable patter about change. And if you live in a major city, you'll be seeing a raft of protests and rallies featuring kindergartners holding aloft "Darling, Stop Harper" signs made out of crayon. People protest against Harper during campaign stops in Kingston, Ontario. This is a Twitter thing from Christine Spatorafor. It's undeniably cute when children play at politics, but kids are also sociopathic, pliable maniacs who are physically unable to envision long-term consequences for political candidates. Children are probably the last people you want endorsing your campaign. Now hear me out. Children are wonderful and our future and such, but the fact remains that when I was 8 years old, I would literally have voted for Al-Qaeda if they promised me enough candy. In fact, I still have elementary school memories of being taken out of class and ushered into a side room to record my objections to a recent round of election or educational cuts. I can't remember if it was teacher or parent volunteering staging the recording, but I followed their instructions, enthusiastically pleaded with the microphone to save my future. I put on a good show, but it's worth noting I had no idea who the premier was, what particular budget policy I was opposing, or where this tape was going. If the adults had asked me to condone the Zionist vampires who were withering our crops, I would have been equally enthusiastic. And science backs me up on this. In court, child witnesses are so vulnerable to suggestion that a whole field of psychology has cropped up. This is really good stuff, by the way. A whole field of psychology has cropped up to instruct the justice system on how to accurately interview children without corrupting their memory of events. Young children tend to assume that adults have all the answers, and they defer to pressures by adults to modify their perceptions. Read a report by the Department of Justice. Children are also chronic liars to the point where it's grounds for concern if a child doesn't begin cranking out fibs by preschool. An off-site 202 study out of Queen's University recruited a number of children aged 7 and under and sat them in an empty room with instructions not to peek at a toy behind them. Most children could not resist the temptation, reads the study, and when asked whether they peeked, most of the children, 4 and 7-year-olds of age, lied. And children tend to be worrying, suspicious of people different from them. An illuminating 206 study out of the Children's Research Lab at the University of Texas gathered up white children from liberal, diversity-minded Austin homes. Then the kids, 5 to 7 years old, were primed with a series of multicultural videos. Despite this, when asked to rate the meaninglessness of different races, the children gave white people a pass, but reported that some or a lot of blacks were mean. In this supposed race-free vacuum being created by parents, kids were left to improvise their own conclusions, many of which would be abhorrent to their parents. I read an account of the study published in Newsweek. This is exactly why so many people get an icky feeling when they see children at protests. Whatever the cause of the demonstration, the children involved often have no agency to decide whether it is something they personally support. Children need to be in the senior grades of high school before they have the intellectual maturity to get into the political process. Charles Crawford, a psychology professor at Simon Fraser University, told Metro News last year after children were spotted at an anti-pipeline protest in Burnaby. A common counter-argument is that bringing kids to demonstrations, parents are role modeling what it means to be a citizen in a free society, as one parenting website put it. But the Westboro Baptist Church is presumably saying the same thing when it equips its young'uns with print-sized God hates fag signs, which isn't to say that kids should be completely shut off from federal politics. Elections are a great time to give the basics on the House of Commons or explain why the evening news is dominated by people standing at podiums in suits. And just quickly related here, a nuanced conversation about defense or fiscal policy is a little difficult when the child believes that hiding under the blankets each night is the only surefire way to be protected from monsters. For the same reason, we can never fully explain to children why Katy Perry attaches whipped cream containers to her bra. Now that I have no idea who Katy Perry is or why she would be doing what she did. We shouldn't expect them to be able to understand the ins and outs of income splitting. At the very least, keeping children out of the campaigns maybe will stop spawning generations of younger people who don't bother to vote. It's a bad thing finding out the truth about the Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus or growing up to find out your dad isn't the Hercules super strong genius you expected. I can imagine it's equally scary and disillusioning for a child become emotionally invested in a Canadian politician only grow up and realize that said politician is Dean Del Mastro. Who the hell that's supposed to be? Responsible government is a lot like alcohol. It is a sweet and wonderful right that past generations have fought and died to maintain, but it is also frequently very ugly. As such, it should be kept away from minors at all costs. What a load of absolute garbage in one sense and perfectly logical in the other. Okay? What do the people who want to run you out of the house do? What do the people who are implementing Agenda 21 use? Children. Okay? Take David Suzuki's young daughter at the age of 12, stood at Rio and yammered off for a long time about how, we've destroyed her planet and she won't have a future and all this kind of garbage. Okay? The idea that adults have any more clue than the children do about politics. The average man and woman in this country doesn't have any more clue than a 5-year-old child about the politics or the issues, because I've done it. I've stood at polling stations before and I ask people why they're voting and who they're voting for. What party? I didn't meet anybody that had any clue what the issues were. Okay? They show up at the polls to put their mark on a piece of paper without any clue of what's going on. You might as well line up 5-year-olds or grade 5 and grade 7s and 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds and send them to the polls to vote. They would make just as good a decision as the parents make, because the parents are completely oblivious to politics. Okay? And with that one statement there, well, I could have voted for Al-Qaeda or whatever. It all depends who's offering me the most candy. Well, what's the difference in an election where the adults are being involved in? It's always about who's offering the most candy. It's always been about benefits. Okay, how do you control the people? Through benefits. Okay, you offer them something of which they don't have to give you anything to get. Okay? So there's no different than giving candy to children. That's all this politics is about. This idea that we have responsible government is a lot like alcohol. It is a sweet and wonderful right that past generations have fought and died to maintain. Responsible government is the biggest scam that was ever laid upon the people. Now, obviously, this writer's a player. He works for the National Post, and it's just not the National Post, it's any paper. Even the Independents have been bought up now. You know, for this guy to say that responsible government is like alcohol, it's a sweet and wonderful right that past generations have fought and died to maintain. The people that fought and died to maintain responsible government were sucked into doing the bidding of a corporation. They fought for a corporation, not responsible government. Okay, responsible government is nothing more than a board of directors for the corporation. That's all it is. And I know damn well all of our forefathers, our brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandparents that died in the wars would never have gone to war had they understood what they were actually fighting about. It would have never happened. Canada is a rebranded Hudson's Bay Company. That's it. That's all it is. It's all it's ever been. And when they rebranded that, instead of the governors of the company telling you what you could and couldn't do, now you have this responsible government telling you the same thing. Well, who set up the Hudson Bay Company? The Crown. Who set up responsible government? The Crown. Okay? Just simply rebranded it. Okay? Deceived the people. And you got these people in the media writing this garbage. And unfortunately, people read this stuff. And most people believe it. Now, this idea that, you know, they shouldn't even be subjected to the idea of politics until they're in high school. Well, I was at the high school when a politician was there. And I was talking to 17-year-old young men and women. Well, I was waiting for this politician to show up because I was asked to come and film it. And I was sorely disappointed after I was talking to these young men and women. They had no clue about anything, period. Absolutely no clue about anything. When I was talking to the young girls, or the young lady, 17 is not really a little girl anymore, but asked them what they thought about politicians coming here and spreading their message to the school. And she said she didn't care. And I go, why not? You know, there's an election coming up. Whoa, yeah, but we won't be able to vote for years. Why is that? I thought you said you're 17. I am. Well, you can vote when you're 18. That's like within a year. Oh, no. They tell us we won't be able to vote for years and years and years. And then when I got talking to the teachers, the one that called me to the school, and another teacher, as they were keeping a pretty close eye on me, and I went over and asked them what they'd done to the children. That they're chronologically 17, mentally maybe 10 or 12 years old at best. What have you done to them? And the response to me was, you don't understand, Ron. I go, spill it. And the teacher stood there and told me that they're like that because their frontal lobes aren't fully formed yet. This is what they've done to people in general. And it's not just that generation. My generation, I call the lost generation, because my generation is the generation where they really lumped on the benefits. Okay? You know, when I was 17 years old, I had to work for 8 weeks a year, and then I could collect unemployment the rest of the year. Okay? Getting people dependent on government has been a downhill slide ever since. I don't know what the percentage of the working people is that work for government now. It's got to be getting awfully damned high. Okay? The teachers all work for the government. Postal system works for the government. The bureaucracy works for the government. The unions work for the government. I mean, we have Sovietized this country. Absolutely Sovietized it. And all of this stuff that's written in this particular article I just read, the young children tend to assume that adults have all the answers. Now, if you put that into election process, voters tend to assume that adults/politicians have all the answers. That's why you vote for them. Okay? So you were born a ward of the state. And the idea of the state was never let you become an adult. Okay, so you're always subjected to their rules and regulations. It's no different than when you were in school. Okay? You broke a rule. You talked out of turn. You were late for class. You ran in the hallway. You went over 80 kilometers an hour. You didn't stop at the stopwalk. You jaywalked. Same shit, different day. Okay? You've never been allowed to enter adulthood. You have been kept in a state, or at least in a childlike state, your whole friggin' life. And we got to break that somehow. The other problem with the politics is this. You vote for a politician, which really doesn't matter, because the only politicians that matter are the ones that get into the cabinet. That's the board of directors. They're the ones who bring about the bills and that get turned into rules and regulations called legal. The rest of the politicians don't matter jack. That's a ruse as well. They have no say in anything. They vote the party. They vote on what the CEO and the board of directors come up with. Okay? You know, they're basically your other politicians. Your local politician is basically a mailroom boy or girl who gets brought up to do a vote once in a while on what the board of directors have come up with, but they don't have any capacity to know what the hell's going on. They just work in a mailroom. Okay? And that's their employers, so they're not going to vote against their employer because they're going to be out the friggin' door. So it's a simple vote. We, the board of directors, who are mainly lawyers, come up with this legalese crap, and then they make these rules and regulations that control you or harm you in most senses. So the problem is that when you vote for a party and that party gets a majority, it doesn't really matter at this point anyways if they get minority because they're all working for the same side at this point anyways. So just like Bill C-51 here in Canada, people are appalled that, how the hell did that get through, right? Well, simple. They were told to put it through. They argue and bitch and complain at one another, but in the end, they all voted through. They always get the votes they need somehow, and people need to become totally aware of that. But if you look at this logically, if when you vote a party in and they're in power, now they're out here on the campaign trail for quite some period of time. Not really, considering that they're in power for at least 4 years, but they make a show of it. They do some TV bits and whatnot, and some newspaper bits, radio bits. They don't really tell you anything. But then once they're in, they have the capacity and the authority to write so-called law. So you vote them in, and you say, okay, we hate Harper, and, we're going to vote in Orange, who I think, I'd be surprised if they don't get in, considering, who's in some of these upper-level positions here. I'd be really surprised if the Orange group doesn't get in. The Pumpkinheads, I guess, Orange Pumpkinheads running the country now. And it doesn't matter. But once they're elected, they can pass any damn law that they want. Now, they don't tell you, and this should be a prerequisite to the election, what should be done in an election process is that each of these parties should be able to tell you what laws they plan on passing. Okay? That should all be laid out ahead of time. If you elect us, we're going to pass a law that you can't walk your dog on a Sunday. Or that you can't have your grass longer than this. Or you can't drive your car more than X miles a week. Or whatever the law is. That should all be written down prior to the election. It seems to be the only instance where you're hiring people or voting for people with no clue as to what their plans are to do after you elect them. And you can't stop them. Once there's elected, there's nothing you can do about it. And they can pass whatever dumbass law they want. And those dumbass laws they're passing are coming from out overseas. Coming out of the Privy Council. I mean, what the hell is Prince Philip and Prince Charles doing in the Privy Council? You know, they keep telling you, like this reporter that I just read his stuff, are perpetrating to the people that this is an independent country somehow. This is not, never has been, independent or a country. It's a freaking business. Domestic affairs. Affairs means business. Current affairs means business. And foreign affairs means business. Okay? So, Fifth Estate, a current affairs production. Yeah, that's right. It's a current affairs production. They're telling you the business of the day. Okay? They're telling you the business that they're conducting. That's what a current affair is. So I would like to see in your 4 years, then you don't have the capacity to be running an ice cream stand. I saw a video out of the States. Some black guys were having a barbecue, and some dickweed, little fat-ass pencil neck comes up to the driveway and tells them they have a complaint. That the smoke from their barbecue is drifting somewhere and is irritated somewhere. Therefore, they must shut down their barbecue and or figure out some other way to do this, or he will have to come back and cite them. This is the kind of international laws coming out of the United Nations at us. And we got to put a stop to it. So all they're doing is handcuffing you. Your private property is not your private property. Okay? They own it. They run it. You get to pay taxes to live on it. But they can tell you to do whatever the hell they want. If they want everybody's house in your community to be painted the color of the party. So if green gets in, everybody has a green house, and if red gets in, everybody has a red house, and God forbid orange gets in, and orange houses or blue houses. And they can actually pass a law forcing you to do that, just like a condominium complex. You know, if their doors are all beige and you want to paint it blue, you're screwed. You can't do it because it's outside the restrictions of the bylaw passed by the corporate board of that particular housing development. So, you know, where it may sound silly that they can force you to paint your house whatever color they want, that ain't so far-fetched. Okay? Now, they may come up with some kind of scientific reason for it, that orange houses or blue houses are good for the environment, okay? That they reflect the heat and therefore help to cool the environment. And that's why we need blue, orange, red, green houses, okay? And there ain't jack shit you can do about it. You can say, I ain't painting my house blue or whatever color. Well, says the little pencil neck who's bugging the guy about his barbecue, you know, hey, it's not me. I get what you're saying. If you've ever had to deal with these pencil necks, I know a lot of construction guys have on a pretty regular basis, and independent business people have had to deal with these little government pencil necks. But they always come up to you and they go, well, yeah, don't get upset with me, man. I'm just doing my job. Okay? My job says that you got to paint it says right here on this piece of paper. They've passed a law. You got to paint your house whatever color. And so the guy says, well, I ain't painting it. Well, that's fine. That's your option. You don't have to paint it. But if you don't paint it, if you don't submit to our rules and regulations, little boy, like I'm the hall monitor, says the pencil neck. And I've got the authority and the power as the hall monitor, son. And if you don't do as you're told and you don't behave the way we want you to behave, well, you're going to the principal's office. So I suggest you go get some paint and paint your house whatever color. Now, I'm going to be back through here in 2 weeks, and I suggest you've got it done. Because if you don't got it done, that means you broke the law. And if you broke the law, then I have to cite you. Then you have to go to court. Then you got to get a lawyer. Yada, yada, yada. So wouldn't it be easier just to go get some blue bloody paint and paint the house and save everybody a whole lot of trouble? Son. Why do you got, everybody else is painting their houses? Why you got to be a hard case about this? This is a reality we're actually living in now. And that's what law is. Okay? Law, not law. Law is no harm, no victim, no crime. That is law. Legal is rules and regulations set down as basically bylaws of the corporation. It has nothing whatsoever to do with law. Legal is setting of norms. It's the setting of social behavior. It is social behavior theory. That is what legal is. And that's all it is. So they make the school rules, basically. I mean, everybody can remember school, right? You can't do this, you can't do that. You have to do this way and not that way. And if you break any of these rules, you're going to be standing in front of a chalkboard writing, I won't do this anymore 100 times. And if you're in a lower class, you're going to be probably standing in the corner. And if you buck up against them, you're going to get an after-school detention. And if that don't work, you're going to the principal's office. And if that don't work, in the old days, we used to get the strap. I don't think they can do that anymore. But that's the authority, that's the control mechanism. Okay, and these are the rules and the social requirements of that school, how you will act. If you act outside that norm, then you're going to get bitch slapped. And it's no different in your adult life. Same system. They trained you in the school system to accept this in your adult life. Okay? So you can look at the highway as your school hallway. They put a sign up there and says you can go this fast. And if you go faster than that, we may or may not stop you. You can run in the school hallway and you may or may not get stopped, but we have the authority to stop you. Okay? Because we've set the norm to be this. And you've dared to go outside of that norm. You've dared to thumb your nose at our authority, so to speak. And therefore, you're going to the principal's office. So if you don't go to the principal office, this time out in the highway, the school monitor, a highwayman, have the authority, just like any of these other pencil necks, to give you a hard time. That you are outside of the norm. Why are you doing this? That's a bad thing. Here's your little slip. Take this to the principal's office, i.e. the justice of the peace or whatever they are. And he'll decide how to deal with you. Okay? And instead of writing on the chalkboard, they're probably just going to reach in your pocket and take whatever they feel is an appropriate amount of funds that will make you think twice again before running in the hallway, i.e. speeding on the highway. Or running in, same thing. And that's the reality of what we live in. It's not law. Okay? It is not law. And because it's not law, it doesn't have any force and effect. The only force and effect it has is from fear, I suppose. Inconvenience to a large extent, and submission. We submit way too easily. But then we were taught to submit easily. You know, a kid in school who says, you know what? If I want to haul ass down the hallway, I will do so. Okay. If I don't hurt somebody or harm somebody or do some damage as I'm hauling ass down the hallway here, I haven't harmed anybody. That's law, right? I haven't broken any law. Okay. Now, if the hallways are full of people and the traffic is going very slowly, and you come plowing through there, okay, at a high rate of speed, and, catch a couple of kids up the back of the head with your elbow as you're running through, or trip some or run some over, well, you deserve to be punished. Okay? Because that's the move of an idiot. And the same thing goes true on the blacktop hallways we call roads. Okay? If there's nobody on the frickin' road, then you going 90 or 100 or 110 or 120, whatever you are comfortable that you know you have control of the situation, It's like if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there, does it actually make a sound? Okay, but at the same token, if the traffic's doing 80 and it's busy, and you decide you want to go 110 or 20, and the traffic's doing 80, well, obviously you are going to cause some serious chaos on that. Okay? Now, you may not hit anybody, but the fact of the matter is that those that you're weaving in and out of are going to become very nervous by your actions, and they, because they're not as capable as you are, may do something rather erratic and cause an accident. But that makes you responsible. Okay? Responsible adults act responsibly. They don't need a freaking school monitor. But they pass all of these rules and regulations. A couple of reasons. One, to put in social norms and as a source of revenue. You know, in the 1 year, 2 million, no, it was 2.3 million, I think, people in Ontario got a ticket of some sort. Okay? And it's gone up because now they have distracted driving, right? Another rule. Well, I was watching, you were distracted, here's your ticket. Say what? I wasn't distracted. Yeah, you were. I just said you were. Therefore, you are. Now, here's your slip. Go to the principal's office. He'll decide what to do with you. These are rules and regulations, not law. Legal is not law. So you got, where was I going with this thing? You've got these laws which are social norm creators. And these pencil necks just keep telling people the same thing. Well, just doing my job. Now, if you harm somebody, whether you're in the hallway at school or you're on the highway, because your actions were outside of what was safe, not what was normal, but what was safe, and you harmed someone, okay, then that is law that you've broken. Okay? But this rules and regulation nonsense. I mean, I see people it really messes me up because I'm walking right now and I walk up the street to get a cup of coffee, and there's a set of lights there. And I can get there and it's red, or it's just turned red, which means I'm going to have to stand there for a considerable period of time until I can go across the street. But, you know, I was taught young, look both ways. And then you cross the street. This is before when I was young, we didn't have a lot of stoplights. Now we got them every freaking block pretty much. Okay? So you look both ways and cross the street. Makes sense. But today, I'll get to a red light there, and I'll look both ways, and if there's no traffic, I'll continue across the street. And I see other people at the other corners waiting to cross the street, and they're standing there, stopped. There's no traffic, but there they stand until the light cycles to green. And then they have permission to cross the road. That messes me up. Okay, and they look at me, what's he doing? Why is he crossing on the red like that? You're not supposed to do that. That's against the rules. And you probably met kids like that in school when you're going to school. It's against the rules. Freaks them out, right? So they teach you through these rules and regulations and through the threat of going to the principal's office, if you will, or the courthouse, not to do certain things. And that is how they control you. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't come here, you can't step on that, yada freaking yada, 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 all rules and regulations. And a perfect example, I've said this before, is when we have one of the counselors, I did ask this in council meeting, that because the municipal governments, your town city government they're all corporations, and that what they pass is bylaws, just like when I had a corporation. It's this exact same setup. Now I said, but you have to do as the province says for you to do, and it's the same in the states. The state government pretty much dictates to what the local government's going to do or not do. They set the rules because they're the ones that supposedly created the local governments. Now, when I asked that counselor, or I asked all of the council, I said, like, how far will you push this? When will you say no to the upper level government? How crazy is stuff they got to bring forward as a rule or regulation before you say no? And I gave the scenario that what if the provincial government tells the local governments that for whatever reason, they have to have a reason, and they have to have something so-called scientific to back it up, and they have to have some experts from a university to qualify this crap, and maybe a preacher or two, who knows. But they always qualify this stuff, and it's a false qualification from the get-go, because they always set it up as problem, reaction, solution. So we set up a problem, then we get some reaction from the media and the so-called experts and the scientists, and then we roll it down to the government, who says, well, everybody wants this, therefore we feel obligated to do it. So the question was, if the upper level government tells you that each newborn boy in this neck of the woods must have his left nut removed at birth, and that's their rules and regulation for whatever reason they want to come up for doing it, once it's passed, it's passed. Now, you here at the local level, will you say no at that time? Like, what does it take? They just sat there like deer in the headlights. Nobody's got any kind of a response whatsoever. Now, I had a meeting with that same counselor who I first discussed this with before I went to council, and met him at a private meeting at a friend's place, and he came out to the meeting, and I put it to him again outside of council. And his attitude was, well, if that's the law, right, and the local council votes in a majority, then off comes the nut. Okay, this is the kind of lunacy we're dealing with. And they will always, they're told, because they, according to the Federation of Municipalities, of Canadian Municipalities, that they run these local councils with the carrot and stick method. So we've passed a rule that all newborn boys are going to have their left nut cut off, and you will do so. You will tell the people whatever we want you to tell them to convince them it's a good idea. If you fail to do so or you buck us, then we'll use the stick. Okay, the carrot is always money. Okay, and that's the stick, that's the carrot. Okay, they starve out the municipalities, then they write rules, and they say, and the municipalities are going, well, we can't survive. Like, well, if you do this, then we'll give you that. And if you don't do what we want you to do, then we're going to take the stick, which means that we're going to screw you financially, okay, and politically. So do as you're told. And that's how all of this nonsense gets passed, through rules and regulations set down by the legislature, which you could look at basically, if you want to keep this in the context of a school, you could look at them as the upper level school board to keep the students, to keep the children in line. A lot of people think they're adults. They think they're intelligent. They think they have the capacity to understand what's going on. Most don't. Most never will. But on the upside, more and more people every day are starting to get it. More and more people every day are making an attempt to do some serious research. Now, the research is all laid out there now. It's very simple to come by. I want to thank everybody that has been doing research since whenever. I want to stick a fork in the eye, however, of the massive amount of disinfo agents and controlled opposition groups that permeate the internet. I just want to take a fork and just stick it in your eye. Okay? Because you're making it too difficult for the good people who come asking questions to find honest answers to those questions. Okay? Your job as disinfo and controlled opposition is to gather people up who are looking for answers, who maybe don't have the time to do proper research or don't know even where to start. And you gather those people up and you deceive them even further. And I wish you people would just go away. Okay? You know, or you've been deceived yourself. Okay? If you're pushing the environment movement or you're pushing whatever, if it isn't to the benefit of the people, then maybe you better take another look at what it is you're pushing. The only thing that's important is for the people who live on this land. That's all that's important. And their families. This idea that someone in this country can't afford a home, can't afford food, can't afford clothing for their children, disgusts me. It absolutely disgusts me. Another thing that disgusts me is everywhere I go, people are looking for a donation to help with housing or heating bills or clothing or food in a country this rich. How is that even possible? They sell you this stuff through empathy. You know, you're better off than these people are, so therefore you must give. Well, those people who have been giving are giving less and less all the time because now they're finding out they're getting into a position where they are about in the position where they're going to need to get somebody to donate to them. Why are there so many poor people in this country? Simple. It's designed that way. It's designed that way. And when they get the right movement together here, Occupy, Idle No More, We Are Change, all of these are all phony organizations. Every single one of them. Anonymous, Ubuntu or whatever they call that thing, all phony organizations. Every last single one of them. Okay, and they're all financed by outfits like the Rockefeller Foundation. They're NGOs. Some of them do, some of them don't have status at the United Nations. But they're all players. Not the people following them so much, but those who are running the game. The local leaders, the local branch leaders and that, all players, every single one of them. Okay, gathering up those who are confused and beaten down, who don't see a future for themselves. Those are the people that are attracted to these groups. And then they have their little protests. Okay, always get lots of media on this crap. And that's part of the reaction to the solution. And the solution is they want to bring in the guaranteed annual income. That's the solution. We don't want to go there. Okay? We definitely don't want to go there, because in order for you to have your guaranteed annual income, is basically the same as taking a lion or a tiger or some big, it didn't have to be a big animal, just any animal, and that was not previously domesticated, and putting them in a zoo. And saying, we put you in the zoo and people are going to come and look at you, and we're going to benefit from people to come and look at you, so you're actually a revenue source. But we do feel something, so we will make sure that you have adequate housing, adequate playtime, adequate food, adequate, private time, and so on and so forth. This is the United Nations human rights. Okay, and you are an animal in their eyes. You are a human being, which is an evolved thing from an ape, which makes you an animal. They are the men who have dominion over the earth and the animals, you being an animal. And they can do whatever the hell they want with you because you're just a dumb animal. Why do you think nobody shows any remorse at the top when they're dropping bombs on innocent people, kicking down innocent people's doors and shooting them in their homes? Why do you think they never show any remorse? They're just killing dumb animals. That's why they don't show any remorse. They don't feel a need to. The human population is destroying the planet. Therefore, we must cull that population, just as we would a wolf population or any other population that we deem is getting out of hand. So this guaranteed income crap is nothing more than you being caged in a unit in a city by a rail track where you don't have access to your natural habitat, okay? Which is, your natural habitat is not the city. Your natural habitat is the rural areas, okay? That's your natural habitat. But they're going to drive you into those zoos and then offer you adequate housing, adequate education, adequate food, all controlled by them, and an adequate income to purchase the adequate food, the adequate housing, the adequate amount of electricity, the adequate amount of water, okay, which is going to be far less than you need. But they deem it adequate, and we're running the zoo, okay? And that's what we've become. We've accepted the fact that we're humans. And in that sense, we really don't have anything to complain about. Because if we're going to act like dumb animals, then we can be treated like dumb animals. And I'm thinking it's time that we lose that designation of human and legal. Legal is the rules and regulations set down by the zookeepers for the animals. Law was set down by your Creator, and your Creator gave you dominion, man dominion. He gave you dominion and law. But if you refuse to be a man or a woman, same thing. If you refuse to be a man or a woman, then you don't deserve law because you've allowed yourself to be deceived. And once you're deceived, you need to be treated as a cattle beast, chattel, slave, or citizen, subject, all the same thing. So if you throw off your creator, you've lost law, then you can't be a man or a woman. And you have subjected yourself to the will of those who decided they want to play God and be men and have dominion over everything, including the animals. And again, a human being is something that evolved from an ape. Now, I know some of the guys, me included, if we, get a little scruffy because we didn't get a haircut or our beard's getting a little overgrown or something, maybe we get a little apish. But we didn't evolve from apes. Okay? That is just another deception to deceive you, to get you to submit to the social rules and regulations that they make up so that you control yourself and act in a manner that they wish you to act in. And if you don't act in the manner they want you to act in, well, then there's the police there or the school monitors to make sure that you do act the way that we request you to act. And if you refuse, then we will send you to the principal's office as many times as necessary in order to break your spirit. And then you will have children, and they will go into the school system, and they will be subjected to the same thing you were subjected to. And that's the end of man. So what they're doing to us, we really don't have much to complain about. Because we're fully involved in it. I saw somebody they wanted to pass a law somewhere, or somewhere. It was down in the southern states, I think. Somebody passed a law about baggy pants. The kids wander around their pants halfway down their ass. So somebody passed a law somewhere down in the States that it's against the law. Now, how can you wearing baggy pants be against the law? Well, it's the same as you refusing to paint your house blue. Okay, they just pass a law, a social norm. Now, they've decided that the social norm does not include baggy pants. And that if you are wearing baggy pants, well, it's akin to running down the hallway at the school. We can't put up with this. And you're either going to pull them up or you're going to be sent to the principal's office, i.e. the courthouse. Now, it's ludicrous. Do I like these baggy pants? No. When I see somebody, we don't have a lot of that around here. There was for a little while, but it's pretty much past now. But, it made me crazy and smile at the same time. Now, did it harm me? No. Did it create a victim? No. Is it against the law? Absolutely not. But legal ain't law. I know I'm going to keep saying that till everybody gets it. Legal are rules and regulations of socially normalized theory, if you will. Or it's a theory of social norms, is what legal is. That's the definition of it. So we don't like what you're doing. We don't really care what you do. We just always looking for a way to pick up a new revenue source. and to keep people divided amongst themselves. I mean, I've seen people say there ought to be a law against baggy pants. Well, damn it, now there is. You know, it goes back to that old story, you know, when they came for so-and-so, I didn't speak up. And then when they came for so-and-so, I didn't speak up. And when they came from so-and-so, I didn't speak up because I wasn't one of them or I wasn't attached to their movement or whatever it was. And then when it came for me, I looked around and there was nobody there to help me. Same game. Same damn game going on here. Well, I don't care for baggy pants. You want to wear baggy pants? That's your problem, not mine. Okay? And it reminded me, you know, I got fired from a job when I was quite young. We're going to run this out of time here soon, I guess. I'll just keep rattling away. I mean, I did get fired from a job when I was 15 or 16 years old, working at the local service station. That's when they had full service. That's where if I didn't wash your windshield and if I saw your headlights were dirty and I didn't wash them and your back window was dirty and I didn't wash that, if I didn't offer to check your oil and if I saw a tire look a little low, if I didn't offer to put air in your tire, I was in big trouble. That was the era of service. And I had no problem with it because by the time I fill up your tank, I had all kinds of time to do all those things. I didn't just sit in my little booth and watch my customer wash his windshield and put the gas in and so on and so forth. But they normalized all that stuff. So now it's normal for you to give yourself full service. But anyways, then, you know, I was starting to grow my hair at that point. So I would have been, I guess, 16. This is way back in like 1970, somewhere in there. And my boss was going away for holidays, and there was just me, the boss, and a mechanic. And, you know, he says, look after the place while I'm gone. And it was kind of like almost like an Andy Griffith kind of garage, right? You know? And so he said, but when I come back, you need to have had a haircut. I go, what? When I get back, you have a haircut. Because if you don't have a haircut, I'm going to fire you. Okay. So you're going to fire me if I don't get a haircut. Well, are you unhappy with my work? Nope. I like what you do. You're very good at it. Smart kid. But you got to get a haircut. Well, does my hair have anything to do with my ability? Nope. So why I got to get a haircut? Well, somebody complained. So because somebody complained, just like I said earlier, when that pencil neck was over at those guys' place, because some idiot complained that maybe or maybe not a little bit of barbecue smell. And who the hell don't like the smell of a barbecue? I guess maybe vegans or whatever, but tough. You know, go barbecue a cucumber. But anyways, when he came back, I didn't have a haircut. And he looked very sad about it, really. You didn't get your haircut? Nope. But you know what I said? Yep. So do you want to fire me? Nope. But you got to fire me. Yep. Couldn't you just go get a haircut? Nope. Okay? Because this social norm that was set down about what is acceptable for hair or not acceptable for hair is crazy talk. Okay, it had nothing to do with my ability to the job. He was quite happy when I went out west and came back several years later. I dropped in to see him and he basically begged me to come back. Now, I'd got my hair caught in an auger out west and I did get it cut. That was a little too dangerous work to be working with the length of hair I had at the time. But now I've got short hair. I'm a few years older and he's basically begging me to come back. What's changed? I'm the same guy. Okay. This social norm thing, if you don't cause somebody harm and you want to walk around with a moose head on, fill your friggin' boots. Okay? I've got no right to interfere with your life. None. You know? But this is how social norms works. You see, if everybody, they pass a law and everybody's got to paint their house such and such a color, and I flatly refuse to do so, because one, it doesn't make any sense. But they passed a law, and I refuse to obey by that rule. And again, it's not law, it's a rule and regulation, not a law. So now I got the lawmakers up my ass. I got the pencil necks up my ass. I've got the local newspaper up my ass. I probably got the police up my ass. I may have a preacher up my ass. I'll probably have some teachers up my ass because I am socially irresponsible somehow because I will not submit to the social norm. Now, before the law came in, the rule regulation came in, there may have only been one blue house. There may have been no blue houses. But now that everyone's submitted to the pencil neck nonsense, and everyone has submitted, some faster and some slower, but eventually all submit. And if I'm the only one that refuses to submit, then all of those who did submit, willingly or otherwise, will attack me. Because I am outside the social norm now, which wasn't normal before they made this rule or regulation. Okay, and this is how they manipulate people using these rules and regulations for normal social behavior, normal social etiquette, and so on and so forth that we eventually submit to. And we got to stop submitting all the time. If you haven't caused somebody harm, like if I sit here right now and I say, you know, this whole idea of Israel as an independent state was created directly because of, and one of the reasons for World War II was to create the state of Israel so the Zionist political instrument could gain influence throughout the world and in the political and the law systems and all the rest of it. And you don't like that. Tough. Did I cause you harm? Did I cause Israel harm? No. But they've made it so that it's not socially normal for me to speak like that. And I've heard it forever. You can't say anything bad about the Jews. Why? Well, because they'll haul you off in front of a human rights commission or something. And I'm concerned about that? Why? Well, you get in trouble. Why? Why will I get in trouble? Well, you have to submit. Why do I have to submit? I'm a man. I haven't harmed anybody. There's no victim anywhere I've been. Therefore, I haven't broken any law. If you don't like what I say, tough. Just tough. Man knows right from wrong. That's his moral compass. Animals get herded. That's humans. Now they want to call that herd called the human herd. They want to call that sucker down real good. I suggest you step the hell out of that herd. That's got a target on it. I suggest you get out of that particular herd called the human herd. Step over here with the men and the women. And God knows I've met some pretty feisty women who understand law, who understand right from wrong, who understand where their moral compass came from. Or you all going to be living in little blue houses near a rail line. And you're not going to go back out to nature because they've determined that you are a threat to nature. God, I can get preachy sometimes, eh? Not really what I plan on talking about today, but, I'm starting to get a little more pissed, and I don't like to talk like that, but we got to get our heads together, people. Right? Ron's not going to jail. Although I might go over to the courthouse on Wednesday. A friend of mine has to go over. Actually, Angus, who did the intro and out music here for the show, has to go to court on Wednesday. So I may follow him over there. I have to call a couple of people to see about filing some paperwork on some harm that was caused to me. By the school monitors, if you will, and see if we can get some paperwork filed in there. They've left me alone now. They don't bother me anymore, which is kind of miss them in a way, and not in another way. They seem to understand now that I'm a man. Yeah, the government they're holding you hostage. Okay? They've never let you out of your childhood. Okay? You are still, in their eyes, wards of the state. And because you're wards of the state, you have to submit to the rules and regulations of the house. Their house. Because you're a ward. You're a child in their house. Got to open the door of their house and walk the hell out of there. You're not a child. You're a man. You're a woman. We need to start acting like men and women. And the sooner we do that, the sooner we can clear this mess up, get on with our lives, and put something together so that the children and the grandchildren and those who come after them have a future. And you got to look at it not as something to be fearful of, but something to have fun with. Okay, it's quite entertaining, actually. You know, when you talk to a judge or you talk to somebody from the Attorney General's office or the Premier's office or the Prime Minister's office, and they know you know, it gets right comical. It really, truly does. So there's no need for fear, people, but there is need for participation, not in their system, but in the system that was set down for man and woman. We just give their system the heave-ho and get back to where we were and the way we're supposed to conduct ourselves from the beginning. Anyways, it's 1:58. I wanted to read a thing last night, and I wanted to read it today, and I didn't. I'm going to put this in the chat. Now, I've done a lot of study about these rules and regulations called the... Okay, we're out of time. I want to thank everybody for listening, but I got to get this into the chat before I get out of here. I want everybody to read this. Don't understand this. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See the shit, force from air. Fuck them back, it's only for they want. They shoot, they kill, they master the brain. They burn the kids. No one is gun, trees, lies.
to your face, fight and die.